So we'll start the workflows in procurement session. I'm going to give a quick talk to set it up and give you some background again, and then we'll have 20 minutes per speaker, and then we'll have a panel for questions, and then we'll have lunch. So without further ado, I'll get started. So again, I'm Gary Grider from Los Alamos, almost as old as Sam, but not quite. So workflows, where did this come from? So I went to a workshop, Dave mentioned that DOE Office of Science had, and it was about workflows used in science and big simulation and stuff. And I was sitting there, and the first three presentations that were given, I was pretty upset because they weren't talking to one another. They weren't even using a common taxonomy to talk about workflows. And I learned several things. I learned that the word in situ has at least 57 meanings. I learned that there are more workflow tools than there are requirements for workflow tools. I learned that that there's no common taxonomy, and that was broken, and I stood up and said so, and decided that I would sit down and try to figure out if there could be a taxonomy to talk about this whole thing, and of course set Dave off on his pursuit, and poor Dave, he's had to do this for the last year. But I also, we're buying this machine in 2020 called Crossroads, and it's in combination with NERSC and Sandia. NERSC is buying a machine, and we're buying a machine together. And we started meeting with the vendors in this year to talk about what the machine's going to look like and how big it's going to be and all that sort of stuff. And one of the things that the vendors came to us and said, the first words out of their mouth almost was, well, how much flash do you want, and where do you want me to put it? And well, how much storage class memory do you want, and where are we going to put it? And should I put it in the network, or should I put it near the storage nodes, or should I put it near the compute nodes, or should I put it near the disks? And I came to the conclusion that I wanted to say very loudly that I don't really care where you put your flash. You don't want me to tell you that. And so I put those two things together, and I said there's got to be a way to inform these vendors about what we're trying to accomplish with these machines in such a way that they'll know where to put their flash, and we'll have a common taxonomy to talk to one another about, and we really needed that to open up a dialogue with these vendors, and that was the real purpose behind what I asked Dave to do, and I think he's done a wonderful job with it. I'm not going to go through. This was my first attempt at it, and it was completely overblown. You'll see some commonalities between what Dave showed you and what I did. I was trying to describe durability of the data, how hot the data is, how big the data is, how fast it has to move, and all that sort of stuff. And of course, he turned it into a much more professional product. Just a quick coverage about what we were trying to accomplish again with Trinity, and Corey, which were the machines that this organization purchased for 2016, which are being installed now. We didn't specify flops. We specified that we wanted the machine to go forward 90% of the time, and we didn't specify, should you use a buffer or should you use all storage. If a vendor could build us a machine that wouldn't fail ever, we wouldn't need the storage to do near as much as it does now. So we left it to the vendors to decide what to bid based on, we didn't tell them, gigabytes per second and all that sort of stuff. We just said we want the thing to go forward 90% of the time, and they had to bid it that way. And it turned out pretty well, I think. And with this Apex Crossroads, NERSC machine that are being purchased in 2020, we're going to stick with that. No flops. We want the machine to go forward 90% of the time. But in addition, we want these workflows to be part of the procurement, and so that the machines will be looked at and measured, the RFP responses based on how well that we think that they'll do these workflows. And Dave went through that in gory detail, so I won't take you through that. So without further ado, that's the background behind this. It's just about workflows in dialoguing with vendors about procurements of machines and infrastructure and the like. And so the idea was that we'd have Dave talk about the taxonomy and how that works. I would give you this babble about why we're doing it, and then we would have vendors come talk to you about their perceptions about how well they're using this, how well it's working out, and so forth. And so Dave has given a talk already, so our next speaker is Ewan Park from IBM. He's worked on info streams and Blue Gene and other things, so he is part of this community and he knows what he's talking about. And so he's going to give us a 20-minute talk, and then the other vendors will give us a 20-minute talk. Brett Weber from DDN and Lance Evans from Cray. Both are long-time architect kind of people in this environment as well. And then we'll have a panel, and then we'll have lunch. So without any further ado, Ewan.